Good morning, very warm welcome to Thirsk here in beautiful North Yorkshire, and we're with you for a kind of unique event. We have the Tour Sportive, 3 days in Yorkshire, and we're going to take you live to the action on the time trial start ramp. 116 riders lining up for this event here today. This is the first of 2 stages they'll ride during the course of the racing today. Well, we call it racing. Of course, the Sportive generally isn't a race, it's a participation event, but because this time trial is on a closed road, we're allowed to record times, and to all intents and purposes, it's a bit of a race. So the riders will be vying for the best time they can get, and they'll be stepping forward onto the podium, top 3 riders later on in the day. But 116 riders have signed up for this Tour Sportif. They're in for a tough time over the next 3 days here in Yorkshire. Good start though. Look at the weather on your screen. It's absolutely beautiful here in Thirsk this morning, and no wind at all. You can see the vegetation is very still indeed. Absolutely ideal conditions for time trialling, and our first rider is on the start line here. You can see some of our technical operations going on in the background, and well, our first rider to go will be Terry Lees, due away at 1 minute past 10. So we've got a few minutes before Terry gets on board his machine and ready, just exchanging a little bit of banter with the start crew here. It'll be held up in full time trial tradition. He'll get the countdown, and on 0 he'll go. Now the course is an out and back course. It covers just on 6 miles. We can, if our technology will play ball with us this morning, which we had a little bit of a tricky start to our proceedings here, which hopefully you didn't witness via our live stream. It was all before we went on air, but hopefully things are working with a greater degree of reliability than they were a few moments ago. Let me just bring up for you a quick video picture of what the time trial course looks like. There it is, and there's the profile. The middle bit is where they do the turns, so the profile at the bottom of your screen, you're looking at an image that is a reflection of the other half of it, because it's the out and back course. It's pretty flat. In fact, it's very flat. Those little lumps and bumps, you see the gap, the distance between just about 125 and 150 metres, so very, very flat and smooth course. And ideal conditions for it. Got the videographers here. We've got our expert cameraman on the start line, just zooming in on the first rider away. Could almost see his number there, no, not quite, but the bottom left hand corner of your screen, I hope, will be showing you the running time for each rider as they complete the course. They start and finish in the same place, the opposite side of the road. 2 minutes I can hear on our background audio. So let's tell you a little bit more about this event while we wait for our first rider to go. Terry Lees, of course, the man in the hot seat, as it were. As I mentioned, brand new concept here for Velo 29, emulating some of cycling's greatest races. Multi-stage sportive weekend. Riders have come from all over the UK. The start order, by the way, for the time trial is based on their geographic location rather than any particular expected performance. So the further away you live from Thirsk, the later a start time you're being given, so you've got every chance of getting here and getting ready to roll in time for the starter to put you under orders and get you underway. As I mentioned, today is 2 stages of racing. Well, 1 stage of racing, 1 stage of riding. The time trial this morning, as I mentioned, on a fully closed road, therefore it can be classified as a race. The ride this afternoon is a normal sportive ride, so that won't be a race. That's for everyone. Be a winner as far as we're concerned for that one. We're covering just on 40 miles this afternoon, and of course taking in some actually tough climbing. They go over Masham and into High Burton, which is one of the really tough parts of this afternoon's course. A couple of significant climbs, Well Bank as well on this afternoon's course. And this evening the riders will be sitting down to dinner, and the Q&A session they'll be hearing from Harry Tanfield, rider from the team of Quebecer Assos. And he actually hails from Great Ayton up there in Teesside, so a local guy pretty much is Harry Tanfield, a rider we've watched go from his very youngest days as a youth rider. Our first rider is away, so the first man on the road is Terry Lees, off and running. I'm guessing the time you're seeing is the time of day at the moment. So how we're going to work out the rider's finishing time from that, not quite sure yet. But no, don't worry, we'll find something out as we go along. Next person on the start ramp is a man. It's David Pendlington is next to go, just getting himself ready. Riders have got the option, if they wish, to use specialised time trialling equipment if they want. That will be aerodynamic handlebars and aero helmets and all that kind of stuff. But most of them just using the same bike they're going to ride the Sportif on, I think, later on in the day. Some may be experienced time trialists, some may be riding a time trial under these kind of conditions for the first time ever. That's what makes this event so unique. So the rides are based at Carlton Lodge over the weekend. There's some glamping going on in the grounds of Carlton Lodge as well, for those who've booked that. And the whole package includes accommodation and food and big screen entertainment. I believe they're going to be able to watch back the action from the time trial this morning as we go through this afternoon and into this evening's entertainment. Next man to go. Well, I said look out for some time trial equipment. I think I can spot some aerodynamic handlebars there. He's just getting himself clipped into the pedals. Got a kind of magenta and white jersey on, is Mark Cartwright. I do apologise that I can't tell you any more about these riders other than their name. Obviously it's slightly different than a regular race where we would have information on riders, and perhaps there'd be riders with recognised pedigrees. We could point up some of their good results in the events they've ridden, but I'm sure all these guys and indeed girls who are taking part in the 3 days in Yorkshire over the weekend are looking to bring out the very best performance they can in all of the aspects, the road riding and the time trialling. We've got another race, by the way, the finish of tomorrow's stage. I'll tell you more about it as Pendlington rides away, Ferret Cartwright, I should say, rides away. So he's the third man to go. Clock running at 2 minutes 26 since we started at, guessing that was 1 minute past 10 when our first rider went away. So next in the start house will be Chris Hansen. He goes off at 4 minutes past 10. Just look at that, Chris is just making some final adjustments to his cycle computer there to make sure that he gets the most accurate time. Never mind our electronic timing. He wants to know what time he did on his cycle computer. Maybe it's telling him the way to go as well. It's pretty hard to get lost on this course. It's simply a road that heads away from the start. You see a little kink towards the left as they go towards the latter end of the course. Then they come to the turn, which needs to be taken with a little bit of judicious riding. It's not terribly tight, but it is one you need to negotiate your way around. So best riders will be looking to try and lose as little time as possible on the turn. So Cartwright is away. Hansen too. Next rider to go will be Douglas Atkinson at 10:05. Our timekeeper just perusing his start list, ticking it off as well as we're doing here in our live stream studio. Well, things were a bit frenetic just before we went on air, as is often the case with live broadcasting, but hopefully things are now working successfully and you're enjoying the sights of sunny Yorkshire. If you have just tuned in here on the Velo29 Facebook page, the event we have for you is the 3 days in Yorkshire, and as we're now live, let's get rid of that, there we go. So that's a view of the start house. That's a little view, an overview of what the riders are tackling over the next 3 days here in Yorkshire. Let's go back to our full picture as our next rider rolls down the start ramp. Was that a luggage rack I saw on the back of his bike? I think it might have been. As Douglas Atkinson away at 10:05. Next rider to go, scheduled to be James Rees. Now, you may be wondering what happens if a rider's not here for the start. Well, in the rules of time trialling, if you're late starting, then you have a penalty added to your time. And the clock will run for every rider who is scheduled away, even if they're not there. So we shall see if our next rider is going to come up. Maybe he's just being shy. James Rees is the man scheduled to go, but it looks like he might have missed his start here. May still be en route from wherever he's located. So if Rees is a non-starter, next away will be number 7, Kevin Rogers, at 7 minutes past 10. Going by my very unofficial clock here on the wall, Rees has missed that 10:06 start, so it looks like he is a late starter, and he will be penalised, may well be slotted into the order later on. But the The technical rules in time trialling, if you're wondering, is the time you report to the timekeeper. So if you're late for your start, if you arrive at 10:08 and you should have gone at 10:06, then you get 2 minutes added to your time at the end of it. So I think the next man on the line here is Kevin Rogers, rider number 7 at 10:07. Our timekeeper just explaining the finer details here. You go down the ramp and pedal as quick as you can, and then you come back up the other side. I think I've interpreted what he was saying. So Kevin Rogers ready for the off, and here's the official countdown. If you ever tried doing a countdown for the start of a time trial, doing that with your fingers, you watch it on the telly in the Tour de France and things like that, you think that looks easy. You try it. You try counting down from 5 to 0 using the fingers, all the fingers on one hand. It's not as easy as it looks, I can assure you. I've been there, I've done that. Next rider to go. I think it's our first female competitor. Yes, indeed, it's Vivienne Irvine is next to go. She's due away at 8 minutes past 10. On a nice pink bike. Nothing wrong with a bit of colour on the start line. Nice pale blue and green jersey as well for Vivienne Irvine. I think our running time on the screen now, which was a little confusing a few moments ago, is now actually showing you the time of day. So 10:07:38. Vivienne should go at 8:00, of course, to take her away at 8 minutes. It's close. Our running time looks just a couple of seconds awry of the actual countdown on the start ramp. Oh, we've got some start ramp dusting going on here. We need a brush, I think. The official start ramp cleaning operative has been in action. Vivienne Irvine is away. We've been riding for just over 8 minutes, 8 minutes 15 since the first rider departed, Terry Lees. So when we see Terry finish, which I think will be on the opposite side of the road, just adjacent to where you can see our Velo 29 Supremo Richard Williamson, the other side of the road, just by the start van there. So we'll be looking out for our first finisher, which will give us an idea of the kind of time the riders are doing on this course. This is Steve Robinson, number 9, going at 9 minutes. Away he goes. That's Steve underway. Well, you couldn't ask for better conditions here in North Yorkshire for this incredible 3 days in Yorkshire Tour Sportif. If you're just tuning in here onto our live stream here on the Velo 29 Facebook page, you're very welcome indeed. And we hope you're going to enjoy the next couple of hours of entertainment. These riders are riding the Prologue time trial in the 3 days in Yorkshire Tour Sportif. 3 days of absolutely top sportif action, peppered with a little bit of race action. And this time trial, distance for the riders to cover is 6 miles, 9.7 kilometres if you prefer it in the new money. Maximum elevation of 32 metres over the course, and an average gradient of maximum gradient of 2.1%. So it's pretty flat. Little very gentle breeze as our next rider goes. That was Peter Cole underway there. So number 10 is off and running. Next away will be Stephen Titterton. Stephen wearing race number 11. Just getting those feet in the pedals. I imagine quite a few of these riders, if they're not familiar with the fine art of time trialling, have not started from a start ramp before. The general idea is to avoid embarrassment and not fall off if we get to the bottom. I actually have seen that happen on major tours. Riders getting it a little bit wrong, but this is quite a gentle ramp here and quite short. And we have got fine conditions. Might be a little more challenging if it was slick underwheel, but I think the weather forecast across the weekend is pretty good. So the weather here in North Yorkshire this morning is a little better than some other places in the UK. I think looking at friends' contributions via social media. So away we go. That's our next rider away at 11 minutes past the hour. That's Stephen Titterton, off and running. Back to our female competitors, second lady to go. This is Judy Cole. Due away at 12 minutes past 10. Judy favouring a longer short, if you know what I mean, just to keep the knees nice and warm. We've had some very chilly weather in early and middle spring. Not quite sure how we classify the season at the moment. Are we into summer officially yet? Does that start in a couple of days when we get into June? Not sure, but certainly the weather is on an upward trend as far as temperatures are concerned after a bitterly cold May by normal standards. So you can see more technical advice being given by our timekeeper there. Go down the ramp, pedal as quick as you can. 5-second countdown. So I think we've worked out that our official time clock in the bottom corner of your screen is just a few seconds slower than the live pictures. We like a challenge. Anyway, the next rider away will be Joseph Shepherd. He is wearing number 13. Wonder if he's got it upside down. Riders, if they're of a superstitious nature, which a lot of bike riders are, if they draw number 13 in an event, will tend to put the number on upside down. Sometimes they've got an event with two numbers, they'll put one on upside down and one the right way up. All kinds of superstitions around it. But anyway, he's number 13. He's Joseph Shepherd. He's in that magenta green jersey with the white stripes. Some nice wheels on his machine there. Some quad spoke wheels, I guess you'd call it. Waiting for his official countdown. You'll note that all of our event staff are abiding by the COVID-19 protocols that have been put in place for sporting events, wearing face masks. And Velo 29 really have made every possible effort since the sportif racing and riding restarted a few weeks ago. And every single sportif we bring you from Velo 29 has absolutely been sold out so far. So too this 3 days in Yorkshire as well. It's proving how anxious people are to get back out riding the bikes with other people. It's been a long, lonely lockdown, or 3 lockdowns for some people. Oh, view of the start of the finish even, though we go. Oh, Terry Lee's in 12:18.66. So that's an indication of the pace. Terry Lee's first rider to finish, and that's appropriate because he was the first rider to start. So the next rider to finish should be David Pendlington, I think. Meanwhile, on the start ramp and away at 10:14 will be David Judge. That's David there. So Terry Lees has laid down the gauntlet, as it were, for the others to aim for in a time of 12:18.66. I'm going to, in a good old-fashioned technique, scribble down the times. Oh, Mark Cartwright's next to finish in 10:58.28. So he's actually passed David Pendlington out on the road. Good ride indeed there from Mark Cartwright. Goes to the top of the leaderboard. Pendlington across the line, and did you see it was 12-something? 12:07.36. There you go. 12:07.36 was the time for David Pendlington. So fastest currently so far is Mark Cartwright in 10:58.28. It's a good time that for 9.7 kilometres. Coming around to 10:15. Next rider away will be Richard Cahill. This is Richard on the start ramp now. So we've had 3 finishers so far. Next rider out on the road should be Chris Hansen. Looking for Chris to come across the line as Cahill goes down the start ramp now. Top of the leaderboard, Mark Cartwright, that time of 10:58.28. That might take some beating, I think. Little respite for these riders. They'll be enjoying a nice lunch back at Carlton Lodge, and then they'll be riding out on our first sportif leg. Sprint plus sportif this afternoon. Getting underway later in the afternoon, heading away from the start at Carlton Lodge, which is the base for the weekend, and tackling a 40.4 mile route this afternoon. Not seen our next finisher come across the line yet. Meanwhile, next rider on the start line, Richard Padwell, followed by Gary Fawcett. It looks like another gap in the field here. We're past 16. We're looking for Gary Fawcett, who should be away at 10:17. So we have a rider on the start ramp. We'll assume it is Gary Fawcett. maybe not, because we've gone past the 17 on the clock. That's, of course, he's well past 17. So I think Padwell went. I think Fawcett is the man who missed the start. So this may well be Robert Wardle next to go at 18 minutes past. Well, slightly confused here because our clock is showing 17 minutes. My clock is showing it's 16 minutes past 10. So this may or may not be Gary Fawcett. Meanwhile, next finish across the line is Chris Hansen in 12:29.89. That's good enough for fourth spot at the moment for Chris Hansen. Well, I think this is Robert Wardle on the start ramp. That time differential would seem to indicate he's away at 18 minutes past, so I think it was Gary Fawcett who was the non-starter. Daniel Waring should be next to go. Here he is, stepping on board the start house. So only one rider beaten the 11-second boundary so far. That is Mark Cartwright. He sits at the top of the leaderboard. If we had a hot seat, which you often do on time trials, and when I mention things like that, our Supremo at Velo 29 events, Richard Williamson probably thinks, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I'll do that in the next one. So yeah, hot seat when we place the leading rider to sit squirming uncomfortably in the glare of the TV pictures until someone supplants them at the top of the leaderboard. We haven't got one of those, I don't think. The leading rider will have gone back to Carlton Lodge for a bit of a lie down before he heads away on the 40-mile ride this afternoon. Looking over to the left of your picture, you can see the Sun presenting a challenge for our timing team. Devising their very own sunshade, which clearly doesn't work. So next rider away was at 18 minutes past was Robert Wardle. Daniel Waring away at 19 minutes on the clock. Bit of I am assuming it is perhaps some relation here. It'd be a heck of a coincidence if two riders with the same surname going off one after each other. But Daniel Waring underway. David Waring is also next to go. Seeing more times coming in here. If I do miss a couple, do forgive me. We've only got the display that you see on your screen here as well in our commentary box. So Douglas Atkinson, 13:33.99 for Atkinson. Meanwhile, our next rider in the start house should be David Waring. That'll be number 20. So no gaps in the field here. Matthew Page next away at 21 minutes past the hour. Much hilarity in the background. I imagine a bit of careful strimming and landscaping has gone on here at the side of the road to accommodate our start house amongst the undergrowth. Certainly a very picturesque location for our time trial. And if you're enjoying this brand new initiative here from Velo 29 to bring you live stream coverage of sportive action, you're not going to want to miss the action tomorrow, because we're going to be live streaming the finish of the third stage, because it's got a closed road hilltop finish at the top of the beast of a climb known as Boltby Bank. We anticipate the first riders finishing tomorrow sometime between sort of 12:30 1 o'clock. So we will be going live tomorrow with live coverage and live commentary of the riders finishing at the top of Boltby Bank on stage 3 of the 3 days in Yorkshire Sportive tomorrow. Mark Cartwright still heads the leaderboard in 10:58.28. Kevin Rogers still second in a time of 11 something. Just missed it momentarily when I failed to write down. Steve Robinson in 11:31. And Kevin Rogers, you see there, David Pennington is third at the moment, and Terry Lee's fourth. Lees was the first man away, incidentally, at 1 minute past 10. As we get round to 22 minutes past 10 on the clock, that should be Aisling Baird. Well, I'm now a little confused again. It doesn't take much here with our timing, because it looks as though this is Aisling on the start ramp. So it looks like our clock is now a little bit ahead of our live pictures. We like a challenge. Anyway, according to my watch, it's 21 minutes past 10, so that should have been Matthew Page. And this should be Aisling Baird. Little difficult to tell from this distance. By the way, I'm seeing exactly what you're seeing on your live stream. We may not be in Thirsk for our commentary, maybe somewhere else in the world, but let's see when the rider goes down the start ramp. Getting the countdown now. Just exercising the timekeeper's fingers. One go. Well, hard to tell. Meanwhile, as the next finisher comes through, Vivian Irvine, I believe that was, in 13:57.14. So still just the one rider to have beaten the 10-minute marker so far. 10:58.28 was the time recorded by our current leader, Mark Cartwright. Next finisher, Hove's interview. That's Peter Cole, 12:25.86 for Cole. And Vivian Irvine would be our first female finisher in 13:57.14. So next on the start house, there we go, next rider away. Be Jack Page. That's 10:23. Well, if our on-screen countdown clock was started at 10 o'clock, then it would be more correct than if it was started at 10:01. But here's our next finisher anyway. Across the line goes, yeah, the next rider to finish. Didn't, oh, there we go. Stephen Titterton, 12:21.98. So, very tall rider on the start ramp here. As we look back to our next finisher, ooh, time trial tuck there going on the aerodynamic handlebars. That was Joseph Shepherd in 10:49.57. New fastest time for Shepherd. Well, Shepherd went away at 10:13. 10:49.57 displaces Mark Cartwright from the top of the leaderboard. So our next rider in the start house, ready to go. Should be away at 10:25 and should be Jason Drew, I think. Is that a pink bicycle Jason's riding? Nothing wrong with that. Nice colour. It's getting the countdown. And he'll head down the start ramp and off and away. This course, by the way, would have been considerably more challenging if the wind were blowing, because local information is that it would be a headwind finish if it were windy. But as you can see from the very, very gentle conditions out there, the vegetation hardly moving at the side of the road, so no wind and sun here in North Yorkshire. Well, there's always like this in Yorkshire. If you've never visited this part of the UK, if you are watching from elsewhere in the UK, or indeed elsewhere in the world, let me recommend this part of the world to you. Lovely roads for riding your bike or for touring, or for walking, whatever you want to do. Next rider across the line, David Judge, 11:31.50. I would judge would be the time for him. Oh dear, sorry about that. Terrible pun. Reminder, we had a new leader, Joseph Shepherd, riding home in 10:49.57. Judy Cole finishes 13:46.10 for Judy Cole. Next rider makes their way onto the start ramp. So 10:27 should see the departure of Chris Bacon. Wonder what he had for his breakfast. So Chris just getting himself ready. Again, just tickling the controls on the handlebar computer to make sure that whatever time the official timekeepers say, he'll have his own record right in front of him. Probably give him all kinds of information about output in terms of watts and all kinds of things like that you can do with cycle computers these days. That may be helpful, particularly tomorrow. Reminder, we are bringing you more live coverage from 3 days in Yorkshire, a tour sportif brought to you by Velo 29 Events. Tomorrow afternoon, round about, well, we're not quite sure what time we're going live yet, because we don't know what time the riders will get to the final part of tomorrow's route. We're estimating around about 12:30, 1 o'clock if you want to tune in for that, but we'll have info up on screen to tell you. Richard Cale finishes in 11:58, by the way, so no challenge to our current leader, who is still only one of 2 riders to beat the 11-minute marker. It's Joseph Shepherd in 10:49.57, and Mark Cartwright second in 10:58.28. I don't think anyone else has gone under 11 minutes so far. If that time has flashed up on the screen and I've missed it, then I apologise. Trying to it's like, a bit like juggling many plates at once here, trying to bring you our live stream commentary. I'm surrounded by screens here, but we do hope you're enjoying the coverage nevertheless. Our next rider to go, wearing a BMC Racing jersey. There's the time of our leader, Joseph Shepherd. Mark Cartwright second, and third, Kevin Rogers in 11:17.70. So yeah, just the 2 riders beating the 11-minute mark so far. As the BMC rider has departed, that was Darren Wood. Next finisher here in the pale blue. Again, time trial handlebars being deployed, and it's Gary Fawcett, 11:07.99. The time for Fawcett. So that's a good time. We've had a handful of sub-12-minute rides so far. Next away should be Alex Warrior, number 29. There are 116 starters in the 3 days in Yorkshire Tour Sportif. This is just the first stage today, the prologue time trial, as we like to say in the world of cycle racing. Just the appetizer, as it were, before the real long routes get underway this very afternoon, when the riders tackle a 40.4 mile route, starting and finishing at our event headquarters in Carlton Miniot, taking in some great roads though along the way this afternoon, including a couple of ascents, Wellbank and Masham, a couple of the significant climbs on this afternoon's route. Next rider in the start house, due away at past, will be Christopher Webb. Green and black jersey for Christopher. Clipping himself into the pedals, held up by our ace time trial start holder-upper. As our next finisher, Daniel Waring, 10:44.72 for Waring. That's the new fastest time. So David Waring, oh, it was Daniel Waring it was, in fact. I've written the name of the time in the wrong column. Oh dear, the challenges of scribbling on bits of paper as we go. But yes, that looks like Daniel Waring who set the new fastest time. It'll be confirmed on screen for you in just a few moments, I hope. And it was 10:44. Didn't get the last couple of digits. We'll have a look in a second. 10:44.72. It was Daniel Waring, new leader. 10:44.72, new fastest time for Daniel Waring. He went away at 19 minutes past 10. So now 3 riders inside 11 minutes as our next rider in the start house. He's just about to get ready to depart. This will be Carl Malia. He's getting his 5-second countdown. Bleep of the countdown, and away he goes. Just a little freeze on our live stream, but I assure you he's off. You can see him disappearing into the distance. Our next finisher comes across the line, stops the clock. The time for Robert Wardle, 13:01.19. 17th spot for Robert Wardle. And our current leader, new leader, is Daniel Waring in 10:44.72. Will anyone beat the 10 minutes before we get to the end of these 116 riders? If you're accustomed to watching time trials in the big races, or indeed your local 10 or 25 on a course near to your house, you'll know that generally the fields are seeded on the basis of a rider's performance, so the faster riders go towards the end of the field. Our seeding here is based on how far away the riders were from Thirsk and how long it would take them to get here this morning, so you can't necessarily say the fastest riders will be going off towards the end of the classification, just the ones who live furthest away. Next rider has gone, nonetheless, at 32 minutes past the hour. That was Graham Bone. As we look out for our next finisher, our countdown time there just showing you the running order so far, with those 3 riders inside 11 minutes. Cartwright, Shepherd and Waring. Fawcett next best in 11:07.99 in 4th place. Then it's Kevin Rogers in 11:17.70. Here's our next finisher. Through the line goes Matthew Page, 11:27.91 the time for Page. And followed immediately in by David Waring in 12:36. Well, if David Waring is related to Daniel Waring, he started immediately after him in the starting order. He's gone a bit slower. Daniel Waring, our current leader, in 10:44.72, and David Waring in 12:36.0 something. We'll see it in a moment. Next rider into the start house, due away at 10:34, should be Alex Fawcett. Anthony Potts is the rider who's disappeared up the road before him. Well, we're favouring wristwatch timing here for the next rider in the start house, Anthony Potts. Oh, he's synchronising his watch and his cycle computer. This looks very complicated. Even more complicated than getting our live stream working. So he's finally settled on board his machine. As our next finisher comes through, across the line they go. Jack Page, 10:46.09. He joins the sub-11 minute club. So he's not quite managed to displace Daniel Waring from the top of the leaderboard, but it was a good time from Jack Page. Away at 10:35 will be Andy Lay. Our next finisher comes into view here. Let's see the time for Aisling Baird, 12:26.95. As an aeroplane passes overhead here at the start line. That's unusual these days, isn't it? I wonder where they're going. Hopefully things are returning to normal in the skies and everywhere else, as hopefully the last lockdown was the last lockdown. Great to see road events underway again. Of course, Velo 29 events pioneered the return of sportive riding at the beginning of April, as soon as laws allowed, and all Velo 29 events run under COVID secure protocols. As you can see, all of the officials here clad in face masks. Even though I'm not actually at the start here in my studio, just to fit right in, I've also got a face mask on as well. Believe that if you will. Meanwhile, next rider on the start line, due away at 10:36, should be Dale Pollard. So our results in the bottom corner of your screen, just running through the top four. 4 riders inside 11 minutes now, pushing Fawcett down into 5th place now in 11:07, then Kevin Rogers 11:17, Matthew Page in 11:27, Steve Robinson in 11:31, David Judge in 11:31.50, and the top 10 rounded out by Richard Cahill in 11:58.15. That's the way it stands at the moment. Still plenty of riders yet to go. Next away should be Fraser Graham at 10:37. Here's our next finisher. Head down. Ooh, a little bit of a wobble as he approached the line. That was a very tall rider, Ben Fielding. We pointed out, in fact, he was on the tall side when he started earlier. So Fielding is across the line. Not a challenge to the immediate leaders, but a good ride nonetheless for Ben Fielding. 12:24.74. Still wearing at the top of the leaderboard with that 10:44.72. Down the start ramp goes our next rider away, Fraser Graham. Douglas Grant should be the next man to go at 10:38. Shouts going out here, trying to track down Douglas Grant. Maybe another rider who's unfortunately missed his start here. So the minute will elapse. It looks as though in the absence of Graham. So next to go at 10:39 will be Sean Dutton. Well, in fact, it looks like our holder-up is going to have a bit of a sprint. There you go. I don't know, some people take their role very seriously. So here's our next real bike rider on the start ramp. And I think this is Sean Dutton, who's due away at 10:39. If you have just tuned in, this is the Prologue time trial live coverage here from Thirsk in North Yorkshire of stage 1 of the 3 days in Yorkshire Tour Sportif. Action all across this bank holiday weekend here in the United Kingdom. And here comes our next finisher. That's Chris Bacon, 11:29.11. I could say he's bringing home the bacon, but I won't. Instead, I'll focus on the next rider in the start house, who will be Daniel Warner. Here's our next finisher, though. Time across the line for the next rider to finish. Jason Drew, 13:49.03. Meanwhile, next man away at 10:39 was Sean Dutton. Daniel Warner will be next to go. That's our next finisher. The other side of the road, Thomas Hope, 13:11.72 for Hope. Still Daniel Waring sitting pretty at the top of the leaderboard. Jack Page in second place. Joseph Shepherd lies third, 10:49.57 for Shepherd. Cartwright fourth in 10:58.28. And Fawcett in fifth place, 11:07.99. So 4 riders inside 11 minutes so far of the 40 out of the 116 riders who have started so far. Riders starting at 1 minute intervals. So next rider away, it's Daniel Warner, 10:40. And on the other side of the road, the man in the BMC jersey, Darren Wood, 12:03.35. Well, if you want to be crowned the winner of the Prologue here in 3 days in Yorkshire, you've got to go faster than 10:44.72. That's the time of our current leader, Daniel Waring. He was the 19th rider to start in this 116 rider field. On the 41st rider to start on your screen now, and in our start house is Martin Hughes. Meanwhile, a gentleman with a basket on the front of his bicycle has arrived here. Perhaps he's delivering lunch. Bit early for lunch, isn't it? Maybe 11's is. So 10:41. It's the time of departure for Martin Hughes. He's being followed by the man with the bicycle basket. Maybe it's a kind of low-rent bicycle cameraman. Who knows? Here's our next finisher. Across the line for Alex Warrior at 12:08.65. So our next rider is in the start house. Seem to have a bit of a freeze in our live pictures currently. Talk amongst yourselves, folks. It was all going so well up to that point, wasn't it? So we hope we'll get our live stream back as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, the riders to go at 10:42 should be Warren Payton. Well, we'll endeavour to rectify the technical hitch that has beset us here with our stream live from the start line. Another look at the profile the riders are tackling here on this Prologue time trial. It's 3 days of Yorkshire. There's a summary of what we're doing over the next 3 days. The 6-mile Prologue time trial, 40-mile road stage, 60-mile road stage, and then a 100-mile road stage. I think we might have got our live pictures back. Let's go back to the start ramp. Well, yes, perhaps not. So as I was saying, yeah, the 6-mile Prologue time trial, 40-mile road stage this afternoon. Tomorrow the 60-mile road stage with the hilltop finish, live coverage of that. And then the 100-mile road stage, the final stage on Bank Holiday Monday, which will take the riders to the finish line for the final time. After what would have been an incredible weekend of riding here in beautiful North Yorkshire. This is live coverage of the 3 days in Yorkshire. We've temporarily lost our live pictures from the start line. Bring them back to you as soon as we can. Well, you can see the problem. It's a network issue that we're having at the start line by the looks of things. So do bear with us, folks. These things happen in the challenging world of live broadcasting. So whilst we work on getting our pictures back, let's tell you a little bit about some other sportive events that are happening in the world of Velo 29.
What I'm looking forward to for today's event is travelling through York. It's a bit flatter today. The weather's fantastic. It's going to be a stunning day and a stunning ride.
here at Vela 29, we're on site at the finish of York Leeds York 2021, our second event back after our second lockdown. It's been a really awesome day, as York always is, but today we've had the advantage of some beautiful sunshine. So over 600 people, which was a sellout under the current restrictions. Everybody has had a wonderful day out. We've still got riders coming back on the long route. They've challenged some big hills. The rest of the ride we tried to make accessible for a first event out for everybody. So it's been great. It's a brilliant spot eve, and it's one that we'll open the season with for many years to come.
We do apologise for the temporary loss of our live pictures from the start line of the 3 days in Yorkshire Prologue time trial. That's our fallback position here, just showing you some of the beautiful roads you can tackle if you join us on one of our other sportive rides throughout the year. More details at velo29events.com. Just head to the website, check it out. And they sell out very quickly, by the way, so if you do want to ride one of the upcoming events, got one coming up next weekend, in fact, in the Whitby Sportive next weekend, and then we've got Lincoln as well on the roads that later in the year will host the national championships for both road time trial and circuit racing. So those couple of forthcoming events. Find out more information, velo29events.com. Find out more about the sportive you're seeing illustrated on your screens as we speak. If you're just tuning in, we have temporarily lost our live feed from the start line of the 3 days in Yorkshire time trial at Thirsk, so we'll bring them back to you just as soon as we can.
I've trained hard for this, but I wasn't expecting it to be this tough. The best bit is getting over the finish line.
Well, thanks for your patience, folks. We apologise for that. I think we've got our live pictures back. Here we are. So the next rider on the start ramp. Yes, detective work required now here in the commentary box. 10:52 on my big clock. So this might be Jonathan Martin. Temporarily lost our live timing feed at the bottom of the screen. that will return in the fullness of time. Meanwhile, the dancing holder-upper is showing his moves there. We like that. So that may well be Jonathan Martin, who's just departed at 10:52. If it was, the next rider should be one of our female competitors. It should be Jenny Graham. That looks like that's a Jenny. Yes, indeed. So we are back at least with who is on the start ramp. This is Jenny Graham, number 53, next rider away. And we've got our timing back. There we go. Shoo! Well, these things happen in the world of live broadcasting. So Jenny Graham will be next to depart. So she gets into a 5-second countdown. And away she goes. Black with a little hint of magenta on the jersey, matching socks for Jenny Graham. Looking very sartorial on the start ramp. A bit of Celeste here, that's the official name for the green, pale green colours of Bianchi bicycles, as Warren Payton finishes in 11:09.66. As I was saying, if you ever spy one of those beautiful Bianchi bicycles being ridden by someone, or maybe you own one yourself, and you're wondering if that unique colour has a unique name, it does. In Italian, Celeste is the pale green of Bianchi. It'd be interesting if this rider's not riding a Bianchi bike with a Bianchi coloured jersey on. We shall see as he prepares to depart. It's Eamon Wall. There he goes. Eamon Wall underway, 10:54 time of departure. Martin Whitehead will be the next man away. Magenta and black colours for Whitehead. So whilst we're away, not only did we lose our live pictures, I lost our live timing as well. So when we get back to the number 1 position, we'll just confirm who is currently in it. Our results system scrolling through each of the positions. So the more riders who go, the longer it'll take us to get back to the top of the leaderboard. So we're looking for our next rider to go. Should be Peter Buckby at 10:56. I believe will be the next man to join us. Oh, well, we're looking at the socks of the rider looming large in our picture here. He's about to make the way into the start ramp. I can tell you, if this were a UCI event, which it isn't, by the way, but if it was, those socks would be illegal. There is, would you believe, a regulation about how high your socks can be in a UCI race. It's actually not as silly as it sounds, because there is a fine line between something that's a sock and something that's actually something that's working your muscles as you ride, which those which extend rather further up the leg can do, and can bring about an unfair advantage. Steph Spencer will be next on the start ramp. I am reliably informed, so it looks like I've got a couple of gaps in the start order. So I think that tall figure with the long pink socks is Steph Spencer. I'm always worried when Richard Williamson walks directly towards the camera. Fortunately, I am at more than arm's length, so he can't be shouting at me. Did you spot who is at number 1 in the leaderboard, by the way? I was looking away when it came round. Unless something dramatic happened whilst we were temporarily away from you, Daniel Waring was our leader in 10:44.72. And the other riders inside the 10-minute marker, inside the 11-minute marker, I should say, with Jack Page in 10:46.09. First rider to break the 11 minutes was Mark Cartwright in 10:58.28. And Joseph Shepherd did a 10:49.57. Well, this little gap in the field is a good opportunity for our timekeeper and our holder-uppers to have a little bit of a break. Take on board some hydration as well. It's pretty warm out there today, which is good. It is supposed to be summer after all. Next finisher comes across the line. Lee Douglas, that was an 11 something. And David Mellor, 12:44.96 for Mellor. So after what seems like a long wait, at 10:59, it will be Steph Spencer who is next to go with the aforementioned UCI illegal socks. But as this event is not run under UCI regulations, it doesn't matter. I wonder if it will confer any real advantage for her. Certainly won't miss her on the road with those bright pink leggings almost. Next rider's finish, Nicholas Ost, 10:26.97. He goes into the sub-11 minute club. So a good time there for Ost, rider who started whilst we were away from our live pictures a few moments ago, but he went away at 10:48. It's now just coming round to 11 o'clock on this Saturday morning. 10:59 officially start time for rider number 59, Steph Spencer. It's off and running. I think we'll recognise her on the way back, won't we, with those socks? So next away should be Alex Cokum. Again, it looks like we might have a little gap here. Following Alex Cokum at 11:01 be Mark Robertson. Oh look, someone's taking a selfie. So I think that's what they're doing. In true time trial tradition, one or two riders gathering around the results table to try and find out their time. What we really need is a result board somewhere in the middle of the field with some trusty operative crayoning the times on it, don't we? Right, next rider to finish is coming to the line now, and it is Stephen McLean in 12:53.60. He went off at 10:47. Next rider on the start ramp now. Bit of aerodynamic helmetage going on there by the look of it, as our finisher here, Francis Davis, in 16:14.42. The inexorable click around of our results counter, showing you the time of everyone finished so far in time order. Here comes our next finisher, and it is James Green, 11:44.69 for James Green. Next rider away from the start line is Mark Robertson's 11:01. And Nicholas Ost has gone to the top of the leaderboard. That time we saw a few moments ago, that 10:26.97 is the new fastest time. So displacing everyone else down a place. And now we have 5 riders inside 10 minutes. So next on the start ramp should be John Whitehead away at 11:02. Meanwhile, finishing here, Stewie Allison, 11:35.60. Countdown is underway here for our next rider away. John Whitehead at 11.02. Next away at 11.03 is scheduled to be Stephen Knight. If you are just tuning in to our Facebook live stream here on the Valley 29 Facebook page, very welcome on this very pleasant Saturday morning here in Thirsk in North Yorkshire for the first stage of the 3 days in Yorkshire, a Tour Sportif. Yeah, it's a Sportif with a difference. It's a multi-day stage event with a couple of racing elements included on completely closed roads, which is why we can have the race aspect of it on both the time trial and the hilltop finish tomorrow. As Jonathan Martin finishes in 10:43.67. Next away, all in black at 11.03, Stephen Knight. Be followed onto the start ramp by Fraser Sidebottom. Fraser just clambering aboard his machine. He's due away from the line at 11.04. A reminder, our new leader is Nicholas Ost in 10.26.97. This time trial over a distance of 9.7 kilometres or 6 miles. Pretty much pan flat course this. As away from the line goes Sidebottom. The 64th rider technically to take the start, although there have been 1 or 2 gaps in the starting order, riders who've not made it to the start line in time. Another rider favouring predominantly black colours. If black actually is a colour, there's a school of thought that suggests black and white aren't described as colours, but I think they are. Anyway, all in black and ready to go as Nick Dynan finishes there. I completely failed to write the time down, I apologise. It was 11 something, I think, for Dynan. We did hope to have a feed just for me with all the times on, but challenges we've faced this morning haven't quite made that possible, so I'm as reliant as you are on the times on screen. As our next rider is underway, it's Andrew Scargill at 11.05, to be followed at 11.06 by Mark Pickering. Pickering, an appropriate name in this part of the world. There's a Pickering in North Yorkshire, to which I went on a geography school field trip many years ago. The less said about that the better, but we were measuring the depth of rivers and all kinds of things. It was very exciting. Beautiful part of the world. And believe me, tomorrow's stage, which finishes at the top of Boltby Bank, will be a real challenge for the riders, but they'll absolutely enjoy the scenery. Let's pause on that as we look at 2 riders approaching the finish line here. Jenny Graham, 12.59.1. So we're looking out for our next starter at 11.07. Should be Paul Skidmore. Still Nicholas Ost sitting at the top of the leaderboard in 10.26.97. 1 of 6, or is it 7 riders have now gone inside 11 minutes. There he is, 10.26.97, the time for Ost. Jonathan Martin was, Eamon Wall's time, 12.31.92. So, Page, Shepherd, Cartwright And that's it. So 6 riders, yes, inside 11 minutes. Fawcett next best in 11:07 as our next rider away. At 7 minutes past 11 is Paul Skidmore. Neil Coit comes to the line. Well, a little bit of a juggling of the order here. Looks like a late arrival has arrived just in time. Means our next finisher in the red jersey. Across the line for Martin Whitehead, 12:15.30. Whitehead was the 55th rider to start. 11:07, we'll see the departure of Paul Skidmore. 11:08 will be Neil Coit, which should be the next rider to go. 116 riders in total. So we're comfortably past the halfway point in terms of starters here. Most recent rider to finish was the 55th rider away. So Neil Coit is off and running at 11:08. Matthew Hardcastle will be next to go, number 69, at 11:09. So there's 3 days in Yorkshire, Tour Sportif. First time we brought you live commentary of one of our Sportif rides. Hope you're enjoying it, despite 1 or 2 little technical glitches. Hopefully they're behind us now. We're thankful also to our sponsors that have made this whole weekend possible. Of course, the event brought to you by Velo 29 Events, but with sponsorship from Endurance Zone, from Hi-Fi Sports Nutrition, and from Revolution Cycle Coaching. Find out more about those fine organisations, head to the website, velo29events.com. We can also find out more about upcoming Sportif rides all through the summer. And indeed into the autumn as well. Down the start ramp at 11:09 goes our next rider away. That's Matthew Hardcastle. Nicholas R. still the leader in 10:26.97. Getting closer to that magical 10-minute marker. If anyone will go faster. It's quite a tall order. Course distance is 6 miles. It's an out and back course, so 3 miles out, 3 miles back. A relatively technical turn, just short of a more major road that the start lane, and indeed the lane that makes up the course here, crosses it into. While we wait for our next rider to go, who will be Saul Busby-Kojic. That is the route they're covering. No, that's tomorrow. Ignore that. Just thought I'd give you a quick preview of what tomorrow's route looks like. What I actually intended to show you is what today's route looked like. There you go. Starting not far away from Thirsk Racecourse and heading pretty flat, pretty straight, apart from the bend, gentle bend round to the left, and that you can see where they do the dead turn there just before they reach the A167, and then come back here towards the start line. I'm going to go away and shoot the graphics editor for our live production for putting up the wrong graphic, but it was me, so there you go. Okay, next rider on the start ramp at 11:11 will be Mario Baumgartner. Will it be Super Mario this morning? Oh dear. We'll find out shortly. Just after 11:11 on this Saturday morning. You're watching live coverage of the Prologue Time Trial in the Velo 29, 3 days in Yorkshire. A 3-day stage sportif with 4 really tough stages to be covered. This is the time trial, covering 9.7 kilometres or 6 miles. And our next rider in the start house, due away at 12 minutes past 11, will be Kyle Menzies. Six riders inside 11 minutes so far. The best of them, Nicholas Ost in 10:26.97. 2 riders finishing. You'll recognise one of them, won't you? That's Steph Spencer with those pink socks. Time of 12:38.87 for Steph Spencer. Meanwhile, our next rider to go at 11:12 is Kyle Menzies. Be followed away by Anthony Aiken. I can tell you that one of the late arrivals, Alexander Kokum, went off in place of Saul Busby Kozik at 11:10. So our next rider is on the start ramp now. Anthony Aiken goes 11:13. Phil Hinchcliffe will go at 11:14. Next rider goes. We were having the whole sock debate a few moments ago, but we then have to, of course, distinctly draw a line between what is a sock and what is an overshoe with built-in sock. It all gets very, very complicated. No wonder the UCI have lots of clothing regulations to get involved with when we come to major national and international events. Sportive riders, though, not quite so strict on the clothing requirements, provided they're obviously wearing some. Let's see who's ready to go next as the clock ticks past 11:13 on this Saturday morning. Phil Hinchcliffe due to depart. Meanwhile, Stephen Knight in 10:38.05. So yet another rider moves inside the 11-minute margin. As away we go with Phil Hinchcliffe. David McLaughlin will follow Hinchcliffe away at 11:15. Another rider clad almost entirely in black. As the sun shines on this very pleasant bank holiday Saturday here in the United Kingdom. It's warm out there, and just a very gentle breeze. As you can see, the plants, I was always going to call them weeds then, but that's doing the countryside a disservice. The undergrowth and overgrowth at the other side of the picture, just gently blowing in the very, very slight breeze. So countdown time for our next rider away. Away he goes. Getting that gear turning. Looking for our next starter. Be Philip Arundale at 11:16. Well, I'm not sure what's being delivered to our timing table there. Looks like one of those things you take the cat to the vets in. I'm sure it's not. Maybe it's some kind of sunshade for our timing computer. Anyway, idle speculation to one side. Let's concentrate on the rider on the line who is about to depart. So going in place of number 76 is number 68. So I think this is Neil Coit. Going in place of Philip Arundale. So riders who failed to arrive for whatever reason for the regulated start time being inserted into the field. Saul Busby Kozik, who missed his 11:10 start, is going at 11:17. So this should be Saul Busby Kozik in the start house now. God, if this is easy, everyone would be doing it. So this is, I think, Saul Busby Kozik. The clock ticks towards 11:17. So it's a late start for Kojic by 7 minutes. Timekeeper scribbling said fact on his clipboard. Next rider comes to the start line. Chris Lodge may very well be the next rider on screen and on the road. Number 78, Chris Lodge. Some natty green shoes there by the look of it. I like that shade of green. Next rider finishing comes to the line. It is Fraser Sidebottom 13.19.36. So Chris Lodge will dislodge himself from the start house and head out onto the road. Still, our leader is Nicholas Ost in 10.26.97. There are 7 riders inside 11 minutes so far. Mark Pickering in 11.49 finishes next. And Paul Skidmore just behind him. Apologies, I didn't get a note of Skidmore's time. Look away for a second and you miss all the action. So our next rider to go at 11.19 should be Scott Call. Meanwhile, another rider emerges from the undergrowth here to grab a picture. 100 and something here's our next finisher. Followed by it's our camera bike. That's what it. I thought I was right, wasn't I? I speculated the man with the bicycle basket was a cameraman, and he was. Wow, we don't need motorbikes here. We just use pedal cycles. Excellent. Right, so next rider to go at 11.19 is Scott Call. Here's our next finisher coming to the line. That is Thomas Osinski, number 58 in 10 something, like 10.59 was it? So he just squeezes into the sub-11 minute club as well. It's a rather less exclusive club than it was earlier in the day. The first rider to go inside 11 minutes was Mark Cartwright, but he's will be lucky to hang on to a top 10 place. 10.16 now for the most recent finish. That could be another new fastest time, displacing Nicholas Ost. So the leaderboard changing thick and fast now. I think that was Matthew Hardcastle. What looked like 10.16. We'll wait till that comes round again on our scoring computer. Meanwhile, the hirsute rider departing from the start ramp is Martin Coyle. And he will be followed by Megan Anderson. And this is Megan on the start ramp now. Due away at 11.21 is Megan. There have been a couple of substitutions for riders in the start order. So as I'm reliant on an arm's length communications process here. Apologies if we've attached the wrong name to the wrong rider, or if you're re-watching this coverage later. So Megan Anderson is the 81st rider to go of the 116 riders scheduled to take the start here today. In stage 1, the prologue time trial of the Tour Sportif, 3 days in Yorkshire. And if the weather stays like it is at the moment, for the remainder of the 3 days, this bank holiday weekend here in the United Kingdom, it's going to be tough, I'll tell you out there. Very warm indeed, but it's better than riding through the lashing rain, or indeed the snow, as we had on one of our Sportif rides just a few short weeks ago, actually. I think it was the Manchester Sportif that got a bit of a snow covering up in the hills of the Pennines. That was only about a month ago. Here we are now basking in the low 20s in Thirsk in North Yorkshire. Ian Anderson, who I feel may be related to Megan Anderson, is next away. You may be wondering how I worked it out. Well, they're in consecutive order in the start list, and they're both wearing the same colour jersey. So Megan's up the road, and there goes Ian. So next scheduled to take the start is Andrew Lee at 11:23. I think I can spot a Marmite jersey here. Tell you when the rider comes a little bit closer. If so, been quite a few people wearing those cycling jerseys, featuring a well-known yeast extract product which you either love or hate. I have to admit I fall into the latter camp. And would you believe I did notice a few weeks ago that you can actually buy Marmite Easter eggs? I didn't, I hasten to add. I went for the dairy milk, as you do. So waiting for our next starter. I think it may be a non-starter. I think we've got a minute gap here. Meanwhile, finisher comes through. Ooh, look as though he's taking it seriously. Anthony Aiken. Oh, we have first sub 10-minute time. 9:55.87. Well, I was speculating when or if we would see a sub 10-minute ride, and we have. Absolutely blitzing the time. Anthony Aiken. He went away at 11:13. He's finished at 11:23. His time 9:55.87. Wow. Well, that really has taken the top of the leaderboard to a whole new dimension. The first sub 10-minute time for Anthony Aiken, 9:55.87. So 11:24 on the clock, and this I think is Danny Davis, the man with the Marmite jersey. About to get the countdown. Off he goes. So this is a performance you'll either love or hate, the man in the Marmite jersey. Off he goes, disappearing into the distance. 3 miles out, 3 miles back. 6 miles in total for the Prologue time trial. Next rider into the start house should be James Smith, due away at 11:25. Number 85 of the 116 riders. And if you've only just tuned in, or you looked away for a moment and missed the fact that we have a brand new leader, and indeed the first rider to beat the 10-second marker in this Prologue time trial for the 3 days in Yorkshire, Anthony Aiken just blitzed across the finish line in 9:55.87, making that the fastest time and the only rider inside 10 minutes so far. James Smith at 11:25 is away. As we look towards the finish to see the next rider on approach. No sign of anyone yet, so let's go back to the start house. And making their way to the start position is Lee Donaldson. Well, they're taking part in this 3 days in Yorkshire event that was sold out, by the way, so it was a great clamour for places. As Phil Hinchcliffe finishes in 11:26.11. Following completion of this time trial, the riders will enjoy lunch back at the headquarters at Carlton Lodge, and then they'll head out on stage 2 this afternoon, the first of our sportif rides, as it were. So we're on regular open roads, so no racing this afternoon. 40.4 miles, but some challenging roads lie ahead. And then tomorrow, after a restful evening, where once again they'll be fed and watered and also entertained by my good friend Joe Fisher, who'll be joining Richard Williamson on the stage at the headquarters this evening for a live podcast, and also for an interview with Harry Tanfield, rider not too far away from being a local in these parts. Hails from Great Ayton, up there in the northeast of England. Harry rides currently for the Team Quebec Assas professional racing team. And he's a rider who, of course, won a stage of the Tour de Yorkshire, the stage race that featured on the similar roads to this over recent years, winning that stage back in 2018, if memory serves me correctly. And he also finished a great ride in last year's Vuelta a España, one of his first big major tours. And he was right, who was second in the Great Britain Time Trial Championships back in 2018, which took place up in, again, up in the northeast of England, not far from his home up in Newcastle. Next rider finishing across the line for Saul Busby Kozik, 9:59.77, second place. Well, I'll try that one again. Saul Busby Kozik actually took a late start. Oh, and we've lost our picture briefly. So, yeah, Saul Busby Kozik took a late start. So that time he has just recorded may well be subject to correction. Temporary loss of our live pictures. Again, we apologise for that. Beyond my control just at the moment. So we'll hopefully bring them back to you just as quickly as we can. Like that. There you go. I was just getting ready to fill for a little period of time, but we've got the pictures back, so that's good. Just in time for our next rider. It should be at 11:29, Nick Smith. Yep, I think that's who we've got. 11:29, Nick Smith. So before Nick, Adrian Turner, David Moore and Lee Donaldson were in the order. A reminder, we have got, well, two sub-10-minute rides now. Fastest of the two was Anthony Aiken in 9:55.87. And second fastest, although subject, I think, to a late start, Saul Busby Kozik. His actual time was 9:59.77. When our results board clicks back around to the top of the table, we'll see how it's defined that. Take a while to get there. We're only in 55th place currently. So 11:30, next rider to depart will be Stuart Slorak. Apologies if that's not the correct pronunciation. And if it is, well, I'll pat myself on the back. Stuart Slorak will be next away. Coming up to an hour and a half since the first rider departed at 10:01 this morning. That was, what was that? It was a long time ago, wasn't it? It was Terry Lees who was first away. His time was 12:18.66. The benchmark quickly set by Mark Cartwright in 10:58.28. But more recently, we've started to see those 10-minute times being beaten. First by Anthony Aiken in 9:55.87, who tops the leaderboard. There he is, 9:55.87 for Aiken. Chris Lodge finishes next in 11:59.24. Ost, another former leader, down to 5th place. Call in 6th, 7th place for Stephen Knight. All his riders sub 11 minutes. Mark Robertson, 10:38.09. Jonathan Martin, 10:43.67. Daniel Waring, 10:44.72. Jack Page, 10:46.09. Joseph Shepherd, 10:49.57 in 12th spot. Thomas Osinski, 10:50.09. Paul Skidmore, 10:56.25. And Mark Cartwright, 10:58.28. So 15 riders inside 11 minutes now, and 2 riders inside 10 minutes. Current leader Anthony Aiken and Saul Busby Kozik. Aiken's time 9:55.87, Busby Kozik's time 9:59.77. Next rider in the start house should be Andrew Whelan. He's due away at 11:32. So we're getting into the latter part of the order now. A baseball hat. Oh no, it's a flat hat being inserted upon the head of our Finnish operative there. As the sun beats down. Well, we're in Yorkshire, you can't beat a flat hat, can you? I'll tell you a funny story in a moment. We'll wait for our next rider to depart. Well, I think it's funny anyway. Just getting the countdown. for 11:32 departure of Andrew Whelan. There goes Andrew Whelan, underway. Yeah, so for several years we did a great criterium race in the Yorkshire town of Ilkley, which you'll know is characterised in the famous song On Ilkley Moor Bartat, which, for those who don't speak Yorkshire, it's on Ilkley Moor without your hat. But it turned out that actually there's a bar located on what was the start line for our criterium racing in Ilkley called Bar Tat. Yeah, there you go. So if you're ever in Ilkley, check out Bar Tat, which is just off the main street, and serves some very nice food and beverages, but it's the name that gets you in Ilkley. But we're in Thirsk today, and we're looking at the riders here. Next to finish is Megan Anderson, 11:37.47. And next rider to start, number 93, I'm going to say. Edward Chadwick follows Andrew Whelan away. So Edward Chadwick next to go at 11:33. Another aerodynamic helmet, and oh, look at this bike. We've got a disc wheel going on here. Deep dish rim in the front. Aero helmet. Close-fitting skin suit. Fortunately, the picture is frozen momentarily, just as we're building him up to a good start here. Colin Nadin is away at 11:34. But again, we've got another temporary freeze in our picture, I'm afraid. So whilst we just twiddle the knobs in the background and change a few cables around to restore our live pictures, we hope. There is the view, the static view of the start line. And the rider due away at 11:34, Colin Nadin, who I think is the man in your picture. Mark Middleton is next away at 11:35. 116 riders on the original start list. I know there have been one or two gaps in the field, a couple of late arrivals. So we're working hard to bring you back our live pictures. And I think we might have succeeded already. Wow, that clock's going quick. So our next rider away, that's Mark Middleton, I think, at 11:35. So hopefully the technology gods will stay on our side for the rest of this prologue time trial. 11:35 here on day one of the 3 days in Yorkshire. Branding's looking a little saggy on the start house there. We might need to do a bit of re-velcroing or something. Hopefully it doesn't fall off before the riders have completed their starts. So next rider away, 11:36. Robert Hall. So by the power of Tinternet, I have instigated some branding repairs on the start house. It's amazing what you can do, isn't it? Well, or not. Anyway, I think it's going to stay there, so that's all right. What we need is a roll of gaffer tape or a zip tie. That's the only two things you ever need to organise any event anywhere in the world, is a roll of gaffer tape and the thing our man's got in his hand there, the pack of zip ties. Told you. Little gap in the start order here, which is fortuitous, whilst we just resolve our slight branding issue. Clock ticks round to 11:37. Next finisher hoves into view meanwhile. And that is Danny Davis in 12:56 exactly. Okay, live branding repair goes on here. Several highly skilled operatives at work. Meanwhile, next finisher across the line is Lee Donaldson, 11:19.18 for Lee Donaldson. Still just the two riders inside the 10-minute marker. Our current leader is still at the top of the leaderboard. That's Anthony Aiken, 9:55.87. And Saul Busby-Kojic, 9:59.77. Those are the only two riders to go faster than 10 minutes so far. Next rider is about to come onto the start ramp now. Well, this is live from the start line in Thirsk as we make sure the branding is in place, ready for our next rider to start. Away at 11:39 will be Robert Brixey. So we've had quite a considerable gap in the field there. One or two riders obviously not quite made it in time here. Remember, the later riders in the field are those who've got the furthest distance to travel. So let's hope that bank holiday traffic hasn't proven to be an issue for some riders making their way to Thirsk here today. I know the A1 gets very busy on a bank holiday weekend. Been done that numerous times on the way to events. Next rider away at 11:39 is Robert Brixey. Meanwhile, finishing on the other side of the road is David Moore, 11:57.88 for David Moore. Another sub-12 minute time for Moore. That's right, don't leave your zip ties in the start house. So man with that returns zip ties to where they came from. And we're all good to go again for the next rider to take the start. Exchanging a cheery word with the start timekeeper. Kurt Handelmeyer, I believe, is the rider in question. Due away at 11:40. Number 100, that means there are just 16 riders to go. Kurt just checking his watch, making sure it corresponds with the running time here. Into the final 1 second of the countdown, away goes Kurt Handelmeyer, rolls away from the start line here in Thirsk in North Yorkshire. Day 1, prologue time trial for the 3 days in Yorkshire Tour Sportif. Great new concept in the world of sportifs. Multi-day, multi-stage, including 2 competitive sectors. Today's time trial and tomorrow's hilltop finish. With Saddlebag on board, next man across the line. I think he might not be riding in the race. Adrian Turner, though, 12:20.16 for Turner. Yes, I think the man minus helmet and with saddlebag might have been a pedestrian or a non-competitive rider. I think everyone's supposed to wear a helmet, regardless of how long your socks are. Next rider to go at 11:42 will be Andrew Buxton. Buxton's off and running. He'd have been a good rider for our Tour of the Peak last weekend. Buxton being in the Peak District. Actually, this is Buxton. That was Carl Walton. Getting slightly ahead of ourselves. Remember, these riders have a brief respite following this time trial before they prepare themselves for the action this afternoon. 40.4 mile sprint sportif with 397 metres of climbing during the course of the 40.4 miles, or 64.6 kilometres if you prefer the measurement that way. Next finisher comes to the line, and we'll stop the clock for Nick Smith in 12:44.47. And departing from the start house as he finished is the aforementioned Andrew Buxton. Next rider away at 11:42. David Leslie will be the next rider to go after Buxton. Officially will be anyway. Might be another little pause in proceedings here. So rather more gaps towards the end of the field than at the start, I have to say. David Leslie is due to be followed at 11:44 by Remo Palisco. Last rider away, by the way, is Nathan Little at 11:56. He's number 116. So still just the 2 sub-10-minute rides thus far for our current leader, Anthony Aiken. And for second place, Saul Busby-Kojic, but Busby-Kojic had a late start, so that time might be revised. (11:05) for Andrew Whelan, who has just crossed the finish line. Yeah, there's definitely another gap in the starting order here. Time has gone by for David Leslie. Meanwhile, next finisher through the line goes, oh no, don't know. Yeah, Stuart Slorak in 13:39.9. So Slorak will slot into the middle order of the classification. So here comes our next rider, who will be the 11:45 starter, I think. Let's see who's finishing. That's Edward Chadwick, 11:06.82. So my clock has ticked well past 11:44, so I'm going to suggest this might be Tim Bunt on the start line here. Rider due away at 11:45. Once again, the timekeeper helpfully pointing out the direction to go. It's that way. Here's the next finisher. Colin Nadin, 10:34.19. Well, that was the rider who, if you recall, our pictures froze as he was on the start ramp. Just as I was pointing out he had disc wheels and all kinds of things like that. It's not giving him the best time, but a good performance nonetheless of 10:34.19. And at 11:45 underway is Tim Bunt, next rider to go. I know I'm right if the next rider on the start line is one of our female competitors. Lorna Dudding is due away next at 11:46. Well, the rider next in line looking behind them, so I think might be another gap here. Little discussion going on amongst the personnel on the start ramp. I think Lorna Dudding might be a non-starter at her allotted time as well. So due away after Lorna Dudding at 11:47. As we go past 11:46, Simon Souvenarg. So if that's Simon in the black, waiting patiently at the head of the queue just behind the start house. There's some very extravagant gesturing going on between our holder-upper and our timekeeper. It could be a mime, couldn't it? It could almost be one of those challenges of what does it mean. Oh, he's pointing at him now. So let's see who's going to come to the start line next. Next time the start will be 11:47 now, I think, and that is due to be Simon Souvenarg. Maybe a little gap there as well, so we will see. who is next to go. 110 is next away. So there have been quite a few gaps here. Seng Nug is the next rider, according to my source of information on the start line. Meanwhile, another finisher, Robert Hall, in 11:14.70. So that is the view of the start line. Just give a little plug while we wait for our next rider to join us of an event you can watch us live stream every Wednesday. The Zwift Dream Bike Race Series, 17:30 UK time, 5:30, every Wednesday for a race on the Zwift platform on the virtual roads of Watopia. You can join in, it's free to take part, and all proceeds donated to the Zwift Dream Bike official charity partner, who are the Daisy Chain Project up in Teesside. So that's every Wednesday, live on the Velo29 Facebook page. Meanwhile, Mark Middleton, our next finisher. Didn't quite get Middleton's time, for which I apologise, but he's slotted into his finishing position. Well, still a gap in starters here. Richard Williamson suggesting this reminds him of Stephen Roche back in 1988 when he missed the start of the Prologue time trial in the Tour de France. Well, this is 3 days in Yorkshire. It's almost on the same level as the... it's certainly the Tour de France of sportifs, this event. And a concept I think that we will see more of in the future, with riders based in a central location over a number of days, riding several stages. Such as the uptake of places in this event when it was launched, selling out very quickly indeed. It's obviously a concept that really has captured the imagination of the riders involved. Apart from perhaps from those who haven't taken the start, maybe realising what they'd let themselves in for. Anyway, next rider due away at 11:50 is Seng Nug. Then there should be Mike Jeffries, James Burgess, Tim Waterman, Robert Corrie, Ronan Law and Nathan Little should round out the start order. Here's our next finisher. Across the line. I think, again, it was a rider just enjoying the roads of North Yorkshire. Didn't see a number on his back. And he certainly looks like he wasn't absolutely eyeballs out for a good finishing time. So that is Seng Nug underway, I'm pretty sure, at 11:50. The 110th rider to take the start. So just a handful left now. 6 riders to be specific. So as we get towards the end of this time trial, that time of Anthony Aiken, 9:55.87, looking more and more as though that is... going to be the winning time today. Second place on real time for Saul Busby Kojic in 9:59.77, but I know Saul started later in the order than was anticipated, so I don't know whether he'll have a penalty applied to his time. Depends how severe our judges are being. Meanwhile, next rider due to go here from the start house is Mike Jeffries at 11:51. Away he goes. As Jeffries rolls away, here comes our next finisher. On the aerodynamic tuck position is Kurt Handelmeyer, 10:58 for Handelmeyer. So sub 11 minute ride, which until we started shattering the 10-minute boundary was the time to aim for, but that time by Aiken, swiftly followed up by Busby Kojic, has moved the target. If you want to take the win here, we'll be celebrating the fastest riders on the podium later in the day after the finish of the sportif section this afternoon. Remember, the riders have got 2 rides today, this Prologue time trial, over the mere matter of 6 miles, and then a rather more serious prospect of 40.4 miles for the sprint sportif stage this afternoon, rolling away from Carlton Lodge. First 18k of this afternoon stage, pretty much flat. some little bergs to challenge, but when we head out towards the beautiful village of Masham on this afternoon's route, that's when the climbs start to take a hold. Climb over Masham, 1.1 miles, maximum grade to 4.5%, eventually bringing them back to the finish at Carlton Lodge, where the event is based, later on this afternoon. But here comes our next finisher. Through the line is Robert Brixian, 13:20.58. And next away should be Tim Waterman. Waterman was due to start at 11:53. I think he's not going to make his start by the look of it. So our attention will turn to number 114, Robert Corrie, due away at 11:54. Meanwhile, let's see who's going to finish next. Carl Walton, 11:59.04. So 11:54 will be the departure of Robert Corrie. And we are ticking towards 11:54 here on this Saturday morning. So I'm going to suggest this is Corrie, and Waterman hasn't taken the start. So the last few moments of anticipation for Robert Corrie before he rolls away from the start line. You see the timekeeper counting down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, and, well, unfortunately, Robert Corrie coming to grief moments after rolling down the start ramp. First rider we've seen do that, unfortunately. Let's hope he's okay. Just retrieving his paraphernalia from the road. Meanwhile, got another finisher on the other side of the road here. And across the line will go our next finisher. We'll get his name. Andrew Buxton, 12:15.48. Well, misfortune for Robert Corrie, crashing off the start ramp. Well, actually, he was off the start ramp. It was first couple of pedal revolutions that defeated him, but he's underway now. Let's hope he's okay. More embarrassment than anything else when you're live to the world. But, oh well, we've all done it. So good luck to Robert for the rest of the time trial, indeed the rest of the 3 days in Yorkshire. So he can redeem himself. Next rider away at 11:55 is Ronan Laurie, who from the official start list is our penultimate starter. Which will leave just Nathan Little to go. So it's looking as though Anthony Aiken has pretty much got that lead position safe in the bank. Just a couple of riders yet to go. He'll be breathing perhaps a little bit easier now. So Ronan Law is the next rider to go at 11:55. And the last man away, Nathan Little, at 11:56. That, I believe, is Little. Yep, so the last man is on the road. So 1 or 2 gaps towards the end of the field. Let's hope those riders make it to Carlton Lodge in time for this afternoon's second stage, which is the Sprint Sportif, the first Sportif stage of 3 days in Yorkshire. If you have just joined us, where have you been for the last hour and 56 minutes? We've been bringing you live coverage of the time trial, the Prologue time trial, 6 miles, just to get the riders' legs turning as our next finisher approaches the line here at the end of that 6 miles of effort. Oh, bit of a juddery finish for Tim Bunt, 11:34.51. Well, that was our technology rather than his riding style, I think, as he crossed the line. So we'll greet the rest of the riders to finish camera being moved from the start line, so that's pretty much a guarantee that all of the riders have departed who are going to take the start. Richard Williamson just redeploying the camera to point down the finishing straight. As we await the next finisher. Nicholas Ost, an erstwhile leader, down to 6th spot in 10:26. We are hoping to be able to bring you a leaderboard of perhaps the top 10 riders at the end when the last rider finishes. I'm not guaranteeing that. Because in the world of live streaming, particularly when you're at arm's length from it as I am in our commentary position, whatever happens on screen tends to happen, but hopefully that's what we can do. But we're also hoping that our officials here might move away from the camera so we can see riders finishing. There we go. Nice view of the road as we wait for our next finisher to come into view. Last rider finisher was Tim Bunt, who departed 11:45. The last man is on the road, Nathan Little, who went away at 11:56. So we wait for the next rider to come into view. You can see just how still it is. We've had some very windy periods of time over recent weeks, but conditions could not be better for a flat time trial than they are here this morning in North Yorkshire. We're live from the start line here in Thirsk. And you can see the heat haze. It really is. That's not a video effect. That is real heat haze as we give you the long view down our finishing straight here. Well, I call it a finishing straight. It's actually a bit of a finishing left and right. The crow that is pacing down the road, testing my ornithological capabilities to the utmost here. I'm assuming it's a crow. It's a blackbird anyway. Maybe it's a blackbird. Anyway, the bird that is pacing down the finishing straight is not part of the race. But the next rider you see coming towards you hopefully will be. This is what my commentary career has come to, commentating on a bird walking down the finishing straight. She's having a bit of a bird bath. It looks at the side of the road. Let me remind you of the leader's time. That's rather more pertinent, isn't it? It is at 9:55.87 for Anthony Aiken. Second fastest in real time today was Saul Busby Kojic in 9:59.77. But Kojic had a late start, so that might influence his overall finishing position. So I will wait for a view of our next ride. Remember, there were quite a few gaps towards the end of the starting classification, hence there will be quite a few gaps in the finishing order as well. So I'll keep a weather eye on proceedings. Just to remind you, you're watching live stream coverage of 3 days in Yorkshire, brought to you by Velo 29 Events. It is a stage sportif with 2 timed elements, competitive elements, amongst the sportif rides. This is the individual time trial. This road is a road closed to normal road users, hence we can have a timed event as part of a sportif. Riders covering 6 miles, 116 riders were on the start list. Slightly fewer than that have taken the start in the time trial. Terry Lees was first away at 10:01 this morning. Last rider to go was Nathan Little at 11:56. We're waiting for our next finisher to come into view. And they're taking the time. So let's have a little look at tomorrow for you. I've been building you up towards our action tomorrow and our live stream coverage. That's the route the riders will tackle tomorrow. Look at all of those hills. Look at the one right at the end in particular. Let's focus in a little bit more detail on Boltby Bank. There it is. That's tomorrow's finish line. And that's a final ascent towards the line. Well, the rider's tackling a gradient that at its steepest is 21%. Bultby Bank is one of the 100 great climbs listed on Strava. Fastest rider to complete it. The time section in 4 minutes 35. Fastest woman in 6 minutes 11. So that's to look forward to tomorrow. We'll be bringing you live coverage as the riders finish at the top of Bultby Bank from around about 12:30. We're kind of pretty much dependent on how quick the riders go when we'll see the first riders tackle the climb of Bultby Bank. So keep your eye on the Velo29 Facebook page. We will be bringing you that live stream tomorrow. Block out that time in your day. Oh, here's the next rider coming towards the finish line. He deserves the full screen, I think. There you go. And his minute man as the bird takes off. The bird's decided he's going to get a better view from the top of that little bush there at the side of the road. Here comes our next finisher speeding towards the line. Looks like he's giving a little bit of time to the rider behind. Assuming that's the order in which they started. Here comes the next finisher across the line. Stops the clock in a time of... don't know. Oh well. So here comes the next rider coming towards us with the white and purple colours on board the pink bike. They will cross the line. That's Mike Jeffries in 12:26.69. Bird can't decide which side of the road is best to watch the action from. Gone across the other side of the road. Here comes our next rider. Just partially obscured. Not necessarily going for the fastest time, I would suggest. But enjoying his ride nevertheless. Freewheeling across the finish line. Meanwhile, here comes the next rider. As the blackbird is watching carefully. It's enjoying it. Yeah, bet he never thought it was going to get this excitement on a bank holiday Saturday morning here in Thirsk. It's taking a view from a higher branch now there on the right hand side of your picture. But here comes our next rider towards the line. Definitely participating in our time trial. I can see the number on the handlebar. Can't actually see the number. I can see where the number would be. That's the next rider who comes through. That's Singh Nug in 14:45.71. Singh went away at 11:50. So he was certainly passed by Mike Jeffries, who we've already seen finish. Started a minute after Nug. Next rider coming through. Quite a few empty places coming up to the last rider. Remember, we saw Robert Corrie come to grief as he crashed away from the start ramp. We'll be interested to see if Corrie has recovered his composure as he comes towards the finish line. This isn't him, unless he's changed his jersey in the meantime. Let's see who we've got across the line. Ronan Law, number 115. He was the second last man to start. Was Ronan Law. So certainly still out on the road is Nathan Little, who went away at 11:56. He shouldn't be far away from the finish line. He's going to time something in the order of 10 minutes. And Robert Corrie we haven't seen. Robert, who was the rider who rather ignominiously came to grief moments after rolling down the start ramp. Got back on his machine and started on his way, but lost a couple of minutes, I think, in the process. Nathan Little, unless we've missed the finish of Nathan Little, still out on the road. I think he departed 11:56. It's now 12:06, so he's been away for 10 minutes and 40 seconds according to my highly unofficial timing here. So glancing back down the finishing straight. Finishing lane, I should call it. It's not really straight, is it? As our scoreboard ticks through the other finishers, I think I can see two riders coming now. The second rider in your picture is Robert Corrie, the rider who crashed on the start ramp. Looks like he's recovered some time here. I think that's the jersey of Corrie. It's quite a distinctive coloured jersey he was wearing. And is this Nathan Little? Corrie almost catching back up to the rider who started 2 minutes ahead of him. If this is Little, these will be the last two riders on the road. Matthew Hardcastle lying third in 10:16. Only the two riders beat the 10-minute marker so far. Let's see who we've got here finishing. It is indeed Nathan Little, 11:25.41 for Little. And this is, I believe, number 114, Robert Corrie. It is indeed Robert Corrie, the rider who crashed at the start, but finishes in a time of 13:38.10. So I think that's everybody home at the end of stage 1 of 3 days in Yorkshire. Robert Corrie, the last rider to finish in 13:38.10, but he lost a couple of minutes after that crash away from the start line. Nathan Little in 11:25.41. So let me confirm the top three for you on finishing time. Anthony Aiken, who went away, number 73, started 11:13. 9:55.87 was the time recorded by Aiken. Second place on race time was Saul Busby Kozik, who actually went away, I think, 7 minutes or so after his official start time. He recorded a time of 9:59.77, so he was the second fastest rider on the day. And third place, I think, is, just let me find it for you. I did scribble it down, just need to find the name. It was one of the riders in the 10-minute marker. Just checking back down my manual list of times here to try and identify that third placed rider for you. I think it's Matthew Hardcastle in 10:16 in third place. So let's go for that. So to confirm the top three, all riders are now finished. Official confirmation from the start line that everyone is home. So the time trial here in 3 days in Yorkshire won in a time of 9:55.87 by Anthony Aiken. Second place to Saul Busby Kozik in 9:59.77. And third place for Matthew Hardcastle in a time of 10:16. That's the way the racing played out here on the beautiful countryside of Thirsk. Riders will be heading away for a well-deserved lunch break now. And then this afternoon, they will be out on the road again for our first sportif stage, stage number 2. Covering a total distance of 40.4 miles of riding, not racing, starting and finishing at the headquarters in Carlton Minier. But let me, before we leave you, direct your attention to tomorrow. We're bringing you more live stream action from the finish line at the top of Boltby Bank tomorrow. We'll be following the riders up that final 0.9 of a mile of tomorrow's Queen stage. In terms of climbing, only 63.4 miles on stage 3. Riders departing at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. And we're expecting the first riders to be heading towards the finish line in Boltby Bank between 12:30 and 1 o'clock. So keep your eye on the Velo 29 Facebook page for information about when our stream will go live tomorrow. But until then, thank you indeed for your company here this morning. We sincerely hope you've enjoyed our live coverage of the Velo 29 time trial here at Thirsk, part of 3 days in Yorkshire, and you will join us again tomorrow. Good luck to all of the riders taking part in this afternoon stage, and don't forget you can also see some live streaming, I think, of the events that take place this evening, including the question and answer session with my colleague Joe Fisher, posing the questions to Harry Tanfield, a World Tour rider. So that's all to come later in the day, but until then, thank you for your company this morning. From Velo 29 events here in Thirsk, we bid you goodbye from the start line.